that the representatives of the 110 chapters know their local communities like the back of their hands. And that's indeed what we're going to maximize for that respective report. Delegate Nota.
Delegate Nota, did that answer your questions?
Yes, it did. One last question here. I don't need this information today, but if you could email me this information, can you give me the name and the contact information for the person that you might be working with in New Mexico? You mentioned the Department of Finance. I'd like to give that information to the McKinley County manager, and maybe he can get more details on that 9/11 surcharge you mentioned. I'd like to have him look into that as well. And if you could email me that information, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Nota. Delegate Stephen Arvizo, did you have any questions? No? Okay. Commander Redhorse, you did state that the two central locations for dispatch was going to be Kayenta and Yatahe. What happened to the facility at Zethnadli? I understand the county did assist in funding and also helped assist with the Navajo Nation acquiring that building. I did tour that facility, and I was told that it was going to be up and running as a dispatch center. But to date, it hasn't happened. And now it sounds like there's going to be some changes that are going to be occurring. So what is going on with that, number one? Number two is you also brought up the issue of fiber. Here on the Navajo Nation, we're having a lot of issues with getting right-of-way approval for service agreements. This is hindering a lot of our water projects and also, probably broadband. At the orientation that we had in Albuquerque, I did bring up the idea of doing Starlink, which is the satellite internet service that many of our Navajo people are saying is really kind of a godsend at this time, and it's much better than fiber being connected to the internet. So is that something that the police department is considering in terms of providing E911 services to our Navajo people? That's number two. Number three is in terms of the rural addressing, what is the timeline for completion? We have been talking about rural addressing for as long as I've been a delegate, and I understand that COVID did occur and there was a long pause with a lot of projects. However, rural addressing, I know that, it has been coming up in many chapters because, chapters are informing their people saying that it's going to happen and we're still waiting. I still have my packages from Amazon delivered to, relatives' homes in Farmington. And then I go there and I pick them up. When are we going to actually have Amazon delivering packages and groceries here on the Navajo Nation? All of that is because of rural addressing, but most importantly, that rural addressing does help assist, especially in those instances where individuals are calling for 911. And I just, I learned that, and I don't know, I'm sure you already know this, but even if you have no cell phone reception, 911 still works. I never knew that until one weekend several years ago, we camped in Yellowstone for a week, my husband and I. And in Yellowstone, there is zero phone service. You can't even get a bar. But I did learn during that time, we hit a deer out there. And so we couldn't get, we didn't know, who to call because we didn't have services. Thankfully, there was a tow truck that was driving by answering, call for another incident that I guess was happening down the road. But they were the ones who told us that 911 does work, even though there is no cell phone reception. So we challenged him, we did it, and it did go through. So we didn't have any bars on our phone. We had no connection with anybody in the outside world. But when we called 911, we were able to get somebody on the phone. And because it was within a park, you know, we were required to call because it was a deer that was within the park that we had hit. So I never knew that. So I just want to make sure, and I want to, you know, just again, I know I'm sure you know this already, but I just need reassurance that that is still the case here on Navajo Nation, so that we can send that information out to our Navajo people. Thank you, Commander Red Horse.
Thank you, Chair. I really do appreciate the comments. And in this regard, the first question is what occurred at the Disnahotetli site? So indeed, this is a facility south of Bloomfield, New Mexico, along the 550 corridor. It is one of the very few areas 3 years ago that had redundant fiber backups that occurred from the Quest fiber opportunity along the San Juan River. And indeed, the backup design that goes to Albuquerque along the 550 corridor, and that in turn exits out up in Denver. So we did select this site as part of the original $3 million outlay from the Department of Homeland Security from a 2015 grant. And this is part of Navajo government, right? We had the grant from 2015. We never executed the grant for 3 years. And then it became that red line point to where they said, if you don't spend it in 9 months, then we're going to take the $3 million from you. So we were actually able to earmark, allocate, encumber, and liquidate the vast majority of that $3 million with the pilot service project. And what the pilot service project site did for us is it sprungboard the consolidation discussion that we're having today. And it proved that if we could consolidate into a centralized answering point facility, what would it look like for purposes of ergonomic furniture? What would it look like for purposes of consolidating 8 radio frequencies that are diverse over half of the Navajo Nation into one particular site? What would it look like for purposes of consolidating the data entry component for purposes of the computer-aided dispatching system of all of our public safety personnel for fire, EMS, and patrol? What would it look like in order to maximize the administrative call lines that are coming in addition to the CAMA trunking systems that are required to ensure that if 15 911 calls come in simultaneously, that all 15 are able to be answered and you won't get a busy tone. That's what it taught us. And unfortunately, we were not able to expand upon it because of simple space, size, and limitations. And indeed, Chair saw the size, it was only able to sit 2 positions. What we're going to be able to sit are 8 positions within these particular facilities over the course of a 24-hour time frame. And the benefits of consolidation means that we bring the 64 dispatchers that the Navajo Police Organization currently employs, and we're able to put them under 2 particular sites, under one command and control system, under one standardized operating procedure. So the Disnahotetli site wasn't intended to be the long-term bona fide Navajo DPS PSAP solution. It was actually a step in a number of steps to prove a proof of concept. And I'm proud to report today that it did its work, it did its job, and it proved that we actually have the ability to magnify and manifest this for all of the 110 chapters. And then in regards to fiber, I do understand that there's a lot of sensitivity as it would relate to fiber. But what I want everyone to know in this discussion is I'm not worried about fiber for purposes of this project. 3 years ago, don't get me wrong, I was really concerned. We're operating under analog technology. We're operating upon graded data bits for purposes of data packets being sent over the nuance of internet space. But now, I went, I saw, I tested, I verified. I was the skeptic and amongst the group saying, you're going to have to show me. I'm going to have to see it upon my rate design. I'm going to have to see it through the VPN processes to assure that indeed what we're being promised for purposes of fiber connectivity is actually existing. And not only does it exist, but there are also redundant backups. So if the first stream fails, we always have the second in order to engineer and access. So the reason why I'm not concerned is this. If you look at the Navajo Nation, right, it's in Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and there's a big highway, it's like oval shape. It goes from Shiprock, and then it goes along 550, it hits Albuquerque. It comes back in on I-40, hitting Gallup. It then goes through Window-Rock along 264, it goes towards Ganado. It hits Loop, and then it ends in Flagstaff. And then from Flagstaff, it comes all the way up to Tuba City. It goes to Kayenta, and then it goes back into Shiprock. And then at those three focal points, Tuba City, Kayenta, Shiprock, and then in the southern focal point, Flagstaff and Albuquerque, there are branches going off to the bigger cities, whether it's Denver, whether it's Salt Lake, whether it's Phoenix, whether it's Albuquerque. And that redundancy is pretty acute and neat, and it actually exists now. NTUA has done a significant job of actually not only building out that fiber network, but also ensuring that it's a tested, competent network to be the backbone of our backhaul for purposes of emergency communication techniques. And that in turn is also bifurcated. It's split right in the middle along the 491 corridor between Shiprock and Gallup. And what I can tell you is during our testing processes, it carried the weight of upwards of 20 gigabytes of bandwidth for purposes of data exchange. And that was our minimum requirement. What it can actually go up to is upwards of 80 to 120 megs at any given point in time for purposes of what we can scale. But for purposes of costs, we can work at the 20 gig requirement. And that's where the confidence for purposes of the fiber go into. And the next answer to that is the wireless technology, right? For purposes of cell phones. Those are all integrated either through wireless design through microwaves or by direct connectivity connection through to a fiber network. So you either have fiber connecting the microwave, you either have fiber that connects to the microwave that connects the tower, or you have fiber that directly feeds into the cell phone towers. So existing towers that are currently deployed on Navajo, that 120 plus towers that we were talking about earlier, already have some component of fiber built into them. The only phones that are analog in nature are basically your deep res chapter phones, right? Burnham Chapter, for instance, is one. They only have 4 landlines in all of Burnham Chapter, and all 4 of them in at the chapter house. One's a fax line, and all the others are admin lines. So that's just to put it an example for purposes of scale. And then for purposes of the timeline of completion, my goal, our intention, the process and the expectation of Director Anderson, the executive branch team, and indeed the council is we got to encumber all of the dollars that we have, $35 million, no later than June of next year, 2024. Now, that may sound like a lot, but what I do want to show you is the plan implementation design that we've already executed and that we're currently working on. Everything that we've discussed today, we already have the matrix plan in place. We're already identifying all the individual steps that have to be taken in order to maximize those particular service and process components. And for our team, we have a number of project managers that have gone through the certification courses to ensure that we're linking and ensuring that we're connecting the different steps that have to be taken for purposes of all the individual steps at all the individual levels, whether it's infrastructure component, information technology component, addressing component, building design component are actually all met in order to meet the deadlines that we're actually facing. And one of the things that I really want to emphasize for purposes of the addressing component is the vast majority of that work has been completed, whether our citizens don't know it. But the reality is our enterprises, our executive branch entities, our I just lost the word. When you go, you tend to lose words sometimes. Your counties have all initiated that process in order to cover huge swaths of our roadways, in addition to the structures that need to be addressed. And in our purposes is just to unite them all. And I can report that the vast majority of enterprises, of entities that hold this data have been really open to sharing that data with us. Now, I'm sure I'm going to come back to council maybe in a few months and say, there's these particular entities that don't want to share it with us. I need your help in order to leverage their support. But what I can say is I think Delegate Nota really hit the nail on the head, which is this is a large program process that has significant utility impact upon the entirety of the Navajo people. And I do expect for them to help us in the future to ensure that the objectives that we've outlined are actually initiated and supported. Now, for purposes of when we can get the Amazon delivery to homes, that for sure is going to be a phased approach. You did hear that Kariai, Batlabato, Burnham, those have already been situated. So I believe that we can likely, and please don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that we can get those published first in part of our mainline system. McKinley County, I know Delegate Nota wanted the name for our McKinley contact. That name is the primary fiscal agent for Department of Finance is Mr. Weinkauf. Mr. Weinkauf. In leveraging the addressing and processes that he's already established and integrating it, I'm pretty sure that New Mexico side chapters have the leg up over the Arizona side chapters. So that's a conversation that we'll have at the LRAC level in order to assure that we do an overview of what the status is of the 110 chapters, and that in turn will determine the priorities that we're extending. But again, the caveat is we only have a finite amount of dollars for the 75,000 placards and the 11,000 street signs. And remember, one placard, as you are, an address on a house can be upwards of 6 to 8 placards. And we've only been able to secure funding for about 75,000 of them. So working with Tico Charlie at the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, we have some alternative funding sources that we're developing in that stream, working with our local chapter districts for purposes of their rural addressing component. I'm pretty sure that we can find some additional technology from that area. But when it comes to actually spreading the addressing component, we expect to have that completed by our terminus date, December 2026. But I think that we can start beginning the early aspects of Amazon deliveries in the, I would say, the late part of 2024, early part of 2025. Because for everyone in this room, the consolidation contracts and the rural addressing contracts, the proposals were due on Friday. So this week, we will be in the process of evaluating those proposals in order to determine what awards can be made over the course of the next 3 months. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Commander Red Horse. Committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time regarding E911 and the process and the timeline at this time? I believe that there was a document that was emailed out and it was shortly put on the screen. So I think that will give us time to review the information as Commander Red Horse has covered the relevant information that this committee needs. Are there any other questions or comments?
No.
Okay, not hearing anything. Sherelle, can you assist us with a roll call vote? For the record, the motion was made by Delegate Nathan Nota and a second was made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo. Delegate Arvizo, did you have a question? Okay. Okay. Thank you. So Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please?
Honorable Stephen Arvizo, how do you vote? Thank you, Honorable Stephen Arvizo, votes green. Honorable Nathan Nota, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Nathan Nota, votes green. With that, Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 2 in favor, 0 opposed. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. is excused. Honorable Sherilyn Yazzie is excused, and Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle, with a vote of 2 in favor, 0 opposed. The report provided to us by Commander Leonard Red Horse with the Navajo Nation Police Department on the status of E911 project is hereby accepted. Thank you, Commander Red Horse, for your time. You are excused at this time. Okay, with that, committee member, as we move forward to item number 6 on the agenda, old business, there is none. Item number 7, we do have new business, legislation number 0079-23. The sponsor of the legislation is Honorable Vince James. Delegate Vince James, are you on the line? second call for Delegate Vince James. Last and final call, Delegate Vince James. Okay, not hearing anything, we'll go ahead and move legislation number 0079-23 to the next Law and Order Committee agenda. Lorraine, if you could reach out to Delegate Vince James and let him know of this change and that he didn't answer when I called upon him 3 times here at Law and Order Committee. So we'll go ahead and proceed forward to new business item B, the travel request to attend National Cops Week in Washington, DC on May 14th through the 18th. Committee members, I do have to ask, are there any delegates who will be attending Cops Week in Washington, DC? I will not be attending. As I understand, Chief Noon did inform, I think he informed the committee that there are no Navajo police officers who are being honored this year. However, that shouldn't prevent you from attending Cops Week because there's a lot of information that's provided at this conference on not only law enforcement and what new things are happening with law enforcement, but also resources that are available to families who may have officers fallen in the line of duty. So committee members, is there anyone going to be attending Cops Week next week from May 14th through the 18th?
Madam Chair, this is Delegate Nota.
Hello, this is Delegate James.
Delegate Nota, the floor is yours.
I do have it on my schedule and I am looking to attend that meeting.
Wonderful. It's always great when we can have a member of the Law and Order Committee attend because it's a really important conference. And committee members, I do apologize. The reason I will not be attending, as many of you know, I have stated the reasons why I'm not really there in Window Rock or why I haven't really been in person to the meetings. So I'm hoping that everything today will be squared away, but even then I think it would be a little late to be making the arrangements back again to travel out there. So Delegate Nathan Nota, if you are good, you can represent the 25th Navajo Nation Council Law and Order Committee at Cops Week. And we would really, really appreciate it. Just so that you know, when you do attend, there are patches that are given out as like coins. Various police departments from Canada. There are police departments from South America, down and from Mexico, like different international police forces that come out. So it is it's a really interesting conference. And then the different events that go on there in Washington, DC. So if you will be attending, you'll be representing Law and Order Committee, and we thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, so with that, we do have Delegate Nathan Nota, Lorraine, who will be traveling out to National Cops Week. So make sure Lorraine, on behalf of Delegate Nathan Nota, if you can get that ORT out, and he will be traveling on behalf of Law and Order Committee. So with that, committee members, can I get a motion and a second at this time, proving that we did have this discussion regarding the ORT to attend National Cops Week in Washington, DC, May 14th through the 18th, 2023.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Delegate Nathan Nota. So with that, the discussion have had the discussion. So we can go ahead and proceed forward to a roll call vote. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please?
Honorable Stephen Arvizo, how do you vote? Thank you. Honorable Stephen Arvizo votes green. Honorable Nathan Nota, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Nathan Nota votes green. With that, Honorable Madam Chair Charles Noon, you have 2 in favor, 0 opposed. Honorable Herman Daniels Jr. is excused. Honorable Sherilyn Yazzie is excused, and Honorable Madam Chair Charles Noon not voting. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. We appreciate that. So I did hear Chair Vince James on the line. Chair Vince James, are you still with us?
Yeah, it's Nade. This is Delegate James O.
Okay, Delegate Vince James, we did call you 3 times for legislation number 0079-23, but we didn't hear a response. Committee members, are there any objections for us going back into the agenda to call upon Chair Vince James for legislation number 0079-23? If there are no objections, we can go ahead and we can proceed forward to act on this legislation.
No objections for me.
Delegate Stephen Arvizo also gave the thumbs up, so I think we are good. Chair Vince James, thank you for joining us here at the Law and Order Committee. Legislation number 0079-23 is what we are calling to for the sponsor at this time. The sponsor is present. Lorraine, can you read legislation number 0079-23 into the record, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee. Tracking number 0079-23, an act relating to law and order, health, education, and human services, and Nabaquea committees and the Navajo Nation Council, amending to enhancing section 403 meeting day for the Health, Education, Human Services Committee. This will move forward to HES, Nabaquea, and Navajo Nation Council. And there are no comments received. That's gone through the 5-day comment, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. So with that, committee members, legislation number 0079-23 was read into the record. We do have the sponsor, Chair Vince James, on the line. Can I get a motion and a second at this time? Motion made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo.
Second,
Delegate Nathan Mota. So with that, committee members, a motion and a second has been established. We can handle this legislation one of 2 ways, committee members. Number 1 is if there are any questions to legislation number 0079-23, we will turn the floor over to the chair to present to us. We will be given 20 minutes on the clock with actually as many agents as he needs to address his legislation. Or if there are no questions, we can proceed forward to the vote. This legislation does proceed forward to Nabaquea and council. So with that, committee members, are there any questions regarding legislation number 0079-23?
Madam Chair, I have no question.
Delegate Stephen Arvizo has no questions. And I'm not hearing anything from Delegate Nathan Nota. So I will assume that no questions. Sherelle, can you assist us with the roll call vote for legislation number 0079-23?
Honorable Stephen Arvizo.
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Stephen Arvizo votes green. Honorable Nathan.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I had no questions, but I vote green.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Nathan Nota votes green. With that, Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 2 in favor, 0 opposed. Honorable Herman Daniels Jr. is excused. Honorable Sherilyn Yazzie is excused, and Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. With a vote of 2 in favor, 0 opposed, legislation number 0079-23 does pass here at the Law and Order Committee. It does proceed forward to Health, Education, Human Services, to Nabaquea, and then on to Navajo Nation Council. Thank you, Chair Vince James, for being on the line.
Thank you, Shananta. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate James.
So with that, committee members, we do move forward to item 7C on the agenda. It's to select a Law and Order Committee member to the Missing and Murdered Diné Relatives Task Force. There is a legislation. Lorraine, or maybe Office of Legislative Counsel, Loya, Do we have an updated legislation if we're going to be appointing a LOC member to a sub or to a task force? I know it says CNABIN-36-22. Is this supposed to be in the form of a legislation? Can you provide us some, some information on this? Thank you.
Yes, Chair. This is Goya with LOC, or OLC. And the legislation will be provided here soon. So what will occur is if you nominate somebody today to be on the MMDI, we will then put that into the legislation, which is going to be dropped here soon. So either you can wait until the legislation goes through Law and Order, or you can just nominate now and I will capture that and put it into the legislation that will be dropped. So those are the two options for the committee to consider.
Thank you so much, Larry. Because we have two members who are not present at this time, I think we can go ahead and we can wait on this legislation for all members to be present. I hate to, do a nomination and then we find out later that a delegate who wasn't here wanted to be on this task force. So we'll go ahead and we'll wait for the legislation and we'll make the nominations at that time since we don't have a full committee at this time, Lawyer. Committee members, Delegate Stephen Arvizo, Delegate Nathan Nota, do you have any objections to that?
No objections here, Delegate Arvizo.
I concur, no objections.
Thank you, Delegate Arvizo. Thank you, Delegate Nathan Nota for that. So Loya, we'll go ahead and we'll wait till the legislation comes out and then we'll make the nominations and the selection at that time. So with that, committee members, we now proceed forward to item number 8, close of the meeting. Before I call for a motion to adjourn, are there any announcements at this time? Okay, not hearing anything, committee members, just a reminder that our next Law and Order Committee meeting will be scheduled on May 15th. This is a regular meeting. At this time, the Navajo Nation will be traveling to the COPS conference. So that's Delegate Nathan Nota. So Delegate Nathan Nota, you'll be excused next week on Monday. Lorraine, go ahead and make note of that we'll go ahead and excuse Delegate Nathan Nota as he'll be representing the Law and Order Committee of the 25th Navajo Nation Council in Washington, D.C. for COPS week. So I'll go ahead and I'll be sending out an email to the Law and Order Committee members, letting them know that Delegate Nathan Nota is excused, so that we hopefully have a full quorum of delegates at that time. So with that, we also have May 22nd, which is another regular Law and Order Committee meeting that will be scheduled. And that is again on the agenda, as well as May 31st, June 1st, June 2nd, and maybe June 3rd. June 3rd is a Saturday, but it looks like we may be completed by June 2nd for the leadership meeting at Twin Arrows Navajo Casino Resort. And again, colleagues, I will be sending out information to the entire 25th Navajo Nation Council. The purpose of me sending out this invite to everyone is because we're going to be getting foundational information about the criminal system and then also the need to amend Title 17. As many of you, as we all know on the Law and Order Committee, that has been a request that has been coming down from the chapters asking for assistance in that. We'll also be covering the federal declination of cases. We'll be getting information on VAWA. I'm working right now with the U.S. Attorney General's office as well as FBI so that they can walk through the process of what a federal case looks like and also the timeline. It's a very, very informative presentation that was given to us last year. And so I've invited them to also come out to do that for us. So again, I'll be inviting the entire 25th Navajo Nation Council to that. I understand that June 1st is a Navajo Nation holiday. I believe it is recognized I think it's like the Recognized Memorial Day for the Navajo Nation. And we did schedule this conference meeting at this time. I think that this conference meeting is very, very important. And it does again lay the foundation for not only Law and Order Committee, but also the entire 25th Navajo Nation Council, since Title 17 amendments will be coming forward. So we're going to be providing that opportunity to the delegates to take part in that conversation, and then also see the way that the case works from the time that a crime is committed on the Navajo Nation all the way through, the two different tunnels, which is continuing Navajo Nation or it being referred to the federal government for prosecution, and then what it looks like on that end and how involved the Navajo Nation is. Again, this will be a leadership meeting held at Twin Arrows, and it is on the agenda. You'll be seeing an email. Right now, I'm working to get the presenters in place so that they, once they commit, we'll be able to put together an agenda and get that sent out. But I'll be sending out information before then to the 25th Navajo Nation Council. So with that, committee members, we do have on Thursday the Nabikiatsket meeting that is scheduled on the 11th. Again, this Thursday. We have COPS Week that's starting the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, and the 17th in Washington, D.C. We also have a lot of graduations that are coming up, committee members. If you haven't already, make sure you check your email. I know Diné College and NTU are having their commencement at the same time, but usually we try to send Law and Order Committee members to graduations. We also have a lot of high school, preschool, kindergarten graduations that are happening. And it's also really fun time, for delegates to get out there. And I have to say the most exciting graduation I ever went to was a preschool graduation. So, you just never know what invitations you're going to be getting. You even get invitations from different schools. I just received my first invitation from, what is that school in Oklahoma? Now I can't even think of it. But it is a Indian school that is in Anadarko, Oklahoma, as well as the school from Santa Fe Indian School. So we usually get those invitations. So it's going to be a busy 2 weeks as we start preparing for graduation. So with that, committee members, those are the announcements that I have as chair of the Law and Order Committee. Again, our next Law and Order Committee meeting will be scheduled at 10 o'clock on May 15th. We do have by law the second, third, and fourth Monday of every month. Committee members, if there's no other announcements, any delegate can make a motion to adjourn at this time.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo to adjourn at 12:04 p.m. Can I get a second?
I'm sorry, second.
Second made by Delegate Nathan Nota. So with that, we'll go ahead and proceed forward to a roll call vote. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote for adjournment, please?
Honorable Stephen Arvizo, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Stephen Arvizo votes green. Honorable Nathan Nota, how do you vote?
I think he voted green about 30 times. I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Stephen. Honorable Nathan Nota votes green. With that, Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 2 in favor, 0 opposed. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. is excused. Honorable Sherilyn Yazzie is excused, and Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Delegate Stephen Arvizo. If I didn't see you on the screen, I would think that you were in a canyon yelling out your vote there. So with that, committee members, we have a vote of 2 in favor, 0 opposed. We are hereby adjourning at 12:04 p.m. Committee members, be safe out there. And if you're traveling this week, be safe out in your travel. If not, we will see you on Thursday at the Nabikiatsket meeting. You guys be safe. Have a good day.
Thank you.